Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode 198 of the Thoughtium Navigating Now virtual roundtable series. I'm Anthony Ewing, CEO, co-founder here at Thoughtium, and it is good to be back at the table with you all. We want to thank particularly our LinkedIn community who join us week over week, Facebook, and those folks who join us via thoughttium.com/live. Navigating Now is now almost 200 episodes strong, and each week we bring leaders to you with perspective that matter most in business, in leadership development, and today in brand authenticity. And our guest today is a really exciting one. She sits at the center of a lot of brand development and helping organizations understand the benefits in investing in brand authenticity. So today's episode is on the rise of 360-degree brand authenticity. And we are welcoming to the table Veronica St. Cyr. She is the operations manager at Stirling Brandworks, and she plays a host of other roles as well too, both within her current organization and in the marketplace. And so we want to welcome Veronica to the table. Veronica, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so we were, just before we went live, you and I were kind of connecting very authentically on the reality of, content creation in support of brand development. And sometimes it's not the prettiest.
No, and it should be scrappy. That's what makes it real, baby. None of us are perfect, right?
Yeah, you were maybe on the receiving end of a bit of chaos on this end,
I love chaos. I thrive in it.
Yeah, we go live every Wednesday for an hour. And I was actually just telling a client the other day that what's so nice about this show and I guess our content strategy, if you will, is that really hitting live every Thursday is the most important thing. Once we get that, and of course, like booking wonderful guests and bringing leaders to the forefront. But I got to tell you, week over week, we don't have a detailed, a scripted out agenda. We don't necessarily have even show flow or notes. We know the topic at heart, and we trust the leaders that come to the table. And that content then goes live, and we're able to use that content, in creative ways by way of shorts that we post to LinkedIn and Instagram and things of that nature. So, but the cost of going live every week is that you've got to make sure that you hit live, regardless of what kind of chaos is happening behind you. And Veronica, I appreciate a little bit of your patience and connecting to the fact that it's not all perfect behind the scenes.
No, of course. And I don't think I shared this with you because we didn't get into any previous resume beyond what I'm doing now. But I actually used to work in live radio. So this is exactly my forte and where I thrive. I know a lot about needing to go live. I'm so used to it. Whenever I hear a radio station go dead, I yell dead air to nobody, because it's going into your head. So I love it. I think it's authentic to not have a script and just let the conversation flow. So yeah. I'm excited.
I'm curious, your background in radio broadcasting. What did that inform for your now role in brand development? Like, are there certain ways that you go about things or certain tastes or behaviors that you've brought from your broadcast days to the way that you help organizations build brand?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think as so many people, we never know where the road's unraveling. We kind of just live in the moment and go with an experience. And it's almost like in hindsight, you go, oh my God, if I had never done that, I wouldn't have been prepared for this thing I'm doing now. And sometimes those are unrelated. I think in working in radio, there were a few key elements, one of which was, we have brand partnerships with brands that are purchasing radio ads, which was a big part of what I did. And what was really fascinating about that is we've seen in my life now, and what I'm doing, a rise of video. We're on a video right now. That's very costly to produce if it's a commercial, but in radio, you can create a $1 million Super Bowl ad with sounds with the same budget. You can create a completely different environment using your audience's imagination that you can't create. So there was a scrappiness to being able to put things together that I've carried through into my role. The other big piece of that is I was fortunate enough to be in a position in radio where I was the promotions director, and I served as the intersection between multiple different departments, multiple different personalities, different goals. And that was on-air talent, which I did get to go on air as well. It ended up becoming talent. I was on Sundays and on some morning shows. But it was also sales. It was digital marketing. It was our promotions team. And that ability to truly understand not only what your listeners want, but to also understand what every department that makes something successful needs in order to thrive, I think was a great foundation to be in a position where everything is about meeting a need or hitting a goal. That's what it all distills down to. And the last piece of that, working in live radio, is you can't have a script, and the ability to think on your toes comes up in more ways. And I'm sure you know this, Anthony, in the work you do. A client asks you a hard-hitting question. Your ability to navigate that is really improv. And I think that's a skill that live radio awards, because you can't edit anything out in post.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's funny because prior to doing even this show, we used to do a highly produced version of this show, and it would really be to the tune of maybe one episode a month, because we would film and then 3-4 weeks of post-production. And I remember like pining over the perfect edits and the perfect cuts and the perfect episode. I don't know if I could go back to that world, to be honest. Like once you build this muscle in, just to your point, like a bit of improv, a bit of being able to do it live, it's really, really hard to go back to the world where everything had to be perfect. It's just such a fun challenge for us.
Yeah. And it also speaks to the news cycle, because we're not waiting for newspapers to be printed in the neighborhood, is so much faster. And I know that's something even Ryan Reynolds, who the new Deadpool Wolverine came out and he's beloved, bought a marketing company, and his entire strategy was they would sometimes produce an ad that was so timely, they'd produce it in 48 hours and launch it. And it was for that, the ability to attach something to something timely is so critical. And it's so, we could talk about something and a month later, it could already be irrelevant. So I think there is something really fresh in bringing people real-time conversations.
Yeah, I love that. So tell us a little bit about the work that you do today. Now you're in the brand operations realm. I know that you're playing a couple of different roles. Tell us, what is your practitionership? And we love this term. We define it as your art form or your craft. What's the work that you love to do?
Gosh, I love that. If I could distill it down, because I've thought about this. I mean, I'm a brand, you're a brand, right? We're all brands. So I think about that all the time. And my own slogan would be, I feel like it is my mission to do great work while being a great place to work. And that's what I show up every day. So that's my own personal motto that I bring into what I do. And what I mean is, as the operations manager, I serve as second in command to our CEO. So my role is really critical in making sure that the vision that he set for our agency is realized within the agency, and we are efficient, we are effective, but it really is also a place where people can meet their goals. I know what they're looking for. I know how to communicate with folks. If I need to ever jump in on a client meeting, I'm able to do so as well. So the agency Stirling, and I know for some, we use the term agency and it can mean multiple things, but we're a marketing agency. We really focus in performance marketing, brand building, and technology. So that could be everything from creating a brand, building a strategy to bring a particular product or service to market, or launching a campaign. It could come down to filming or producing commercials or video content, really. Say commercial less, or focus a little bit less on broadcast. Building custom modern websites, technology. But all of those things really at their core are developing that brand. So I have been focused a little bit more internally in my role at Stirling on making sure that behind the scenes, this place is servicing our clients effectively. I do also, as you mentioned, the multiple hats. I also serve as the co-host of a podcast our CEO and founder and I do together called Brand to Brand, the marketing show, where we look at major brands and tell a story about something happening or a trend in business, branding, marketing, or technology, or share insights through comparing and contrasting to well-known brands. So it's something everybody has an emotion or an opinion about, right? Like your Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, we all can say something about that. So that's a big part of the content creation. And the last piece of what I do is serving as really a fractional director of strategic partnerships on behalf of a human services startup technology in partnership with one of our partners, really. So it's quite a few things. I think when I think of it's like harder to distill down, but I really think that is what it is. can we, and I am such a firm believer in win-wins. My role I really see as making sure the work is great and it is great to work here. And that, again, I just filter everything through that lens.
Yeah, I love that. In previous lives, I was the, director of operations, chief of staff. And I still say it today. There's no better job out there than being the number two. It's like the best job in the world, right?
I love it.
You've got such incredible exposure across the business. You are responsible for both what we call the clouds and the dirt. Responsible for carrying forward a vision, but you also have the opportunity to roll your sleeves up and do the work, every day that allows the organization to succeed. So from one, pure operations manager to the next, I respect your practitionership more than you know.
Awesome. I love that.
So today's episode is on 360 degree brand authenticity. And I'm curious, Veronica, when that kind of comes to mind, what does that mean for you? 360 degree brand authenticity.
Yeah. And I will just say, I think it's so hard to be original these days. Like, who knows who coined it? I didn't see it somewhere and adopt it. It's really something that I've been kind of curating a perspective on in my head for a while. And I think it's why it was so interesting to talk to you and the work that you do, because I think consumer behavior and expectations have changed so much in my lifetime alone. But really with the rise of social media, it's just shifted. It basically used to have the town square where people would come to talk and meet and develop their opinions of the world around them. And now we have this instant way where the court of public opinion can ask questions directly of a brand that everybody can see. There is a transparency and a scrutiny and a lens into businesses that there just hasn't been before. And I think so often, and it is younger generations and millennials, yes, but Gen Z and the generations to come after them in particular that have started to demand authenticity from brands. They want to know how you treat your employees. They want to know who the CEO, maybe who he's voting for or she's voting for. They want to know if that company has a sustainability initiative. It's really not maybe what it was 50 years ago, which is this the best product or service? Or if we're talking branding, is this the best? Is this communicated as the best product or service? We're going so many layers deep into building that brand authenticity. So what I've been thinking about a lot lately is you have all these silos in an operation, and often in a business you talk about like sales and marketing need to be in harmony and they need to work together. But is anyone saying, is operations involved in that? Is HR involved in that? Because there is an expectation that whatever brand you're putting out there, whatever that brand promise is, as we'd call it, are you delivering on that every way? And I really think about that two ways. One is the customer experience. So is your customer in every interaction that they're having with a brand, fulfilling the brand that you're saying that you are? But then even internally, like it's a brand inward and outward. If you're this really joyful, bubbly brand, what is that experience like internally? Amica Insurance, empathy is our best policy, is their tagline. Their whole brand is around having empathy in insurance. What is it like to be an employee at that agency? Do they feel that there's empathy in every part of being an employee? And if there isn't, we have tools like Glassdoor, and we have people who can talk and talk fast. So there's just a pressure on businesses to really think more holistically. A brand is not something that sits with marketing and ends with marketing. It really should be reflected and evaluated where it meets every single part of a business.
Yeah, I love that. That perspective is so strong, right? Because especially as a small and growing firm here at Thoughtium, we believe very strongly in brand development. In fact, I would say that the brand is something that we put out there in the marketplace well before we did even our offerings or our services. Even to this day, 8 years in, we joke that people that interact with us as a brand, our community work, our content, even our ethos, are oftentimes confused as to like what we actually do every day. And we say like sometimes that means that it's working a little bit, right? Because if we were to essentially pigeonhole ourselves to in the consulting space, 2 or 3 very specific service lines. I don't know if that would be conducive to a organically growing firm like ours that have had to really go left and right in different directions, and haven't necessarily had to lay down like very specific service lines and capabilities and one-pagers and things of that nature. A lot of our work is done and born from the relationships that we develop. 100% of our work is referral based. And so, we have this authenticity to our brand that is all about the human-centered experience. I sometimes struggle to put black and white definition to that, because that's something that you have to experience. That's something that you have to kind of see and interact with. And to me, that's what brand authenticity is all about. It's something that can't be necessarily explained on a website or a single slide, if you will.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be, right? It's so much of a brand isn't real at the end of the day, which I feel like I'm going to get taken out by the marketing powers that be, the marketing Illuminati, but it's an idea. Like it's this intangible thing that we assign meaning to. And even if we think we assign meaning to it, your clients, your customers, your audience might assign a totally different meaning. And so quickly, if it's not, people can smell BS. Employees can smell BS internally. Consumers can smell it about products. There are so many instances of when a brand has made a promise or has said we're a certain way or we have a certain initiative and taken an action that has completely gone against what that promise is. And I liken it to, in court, if once somebody who's on the stand lies, they throw out the whole testimony, because you cannot then therefore say, where's the truth? If they've lied once, now all of this is kind of out. And a lot of consumers have that expectation with brands where once they see something that's out of alignment with how this brand operates or how they've claimed to operate, and then they see it in action, it's almost like this house of cards starts to kind of crumble. So it's a tricky position to be in. And it's interesting with the work that your firm does, because I think there's such an opportunity for consulting in the consulting space, for marketing and branding to work in harmony with the type of work that you do, because it starts at the top, it starts in leadership, and it starts with employees coming in, and that employee development should be considering what that brand experience is like. And it could be so often that informs marketing the other way. Like it should be kind of a two-way street. So I think there's such a opportunity to break down some of those silos. And I know some of your clients, as some of ours, we're external partners. We're third parties kind of coming in. And yes, I know we like to get inside the brands, as I'm sure that's part of your process, and ask the right questions. But I think it's so important that to lead with integrity in the work that we do, we have to ask the deep questions, and we have to be curious about what else is going on in the business. And I mean, this is, you're talking to me and asking me questions, but I'm curious at Thaudium, are you aware of what your clients are also doing from a marketing perspective? Do you feel like that's something that you guys get to kind of be a part of and think about?
Yeah, we work across a lot of different functions within the commercial organization. One of the things that we're finding is that, to your point, a lot of our work actually does start with some brand or marketing development. For example, we have an offering called the Strategic Blueprint, which is a strategy development process that we bring, groups of leaders, and it's, they're developing their 3 to 5 year mission and vision and long-term goals. So many times that we are working with our clients on this, there is a very heavy brand communications messaging component to this. We say that your strategy is only as good as the way that you can communicate it. And we encourage our leaders to not think about their vision statement as a conglomerate of buzzwords that you have to read off of slide notes or a cue card, but we challenge them to create statements that are no more than 5 words, which then become the mission for the organization, and also the tagline, rallying cry, and potentially kind of brand promise or slogan, if you will. And so much of our work, particularly in the strategy space, is really lit up when we're able to bring a sense of brand and communications to it. We're able to help our leaders see that what you're creating here in this long-term strategy is also the fingerprints, the DNA that your folks are going to be leaving in the hallways.
Oh, it's so important. And I think that what this is reminding me of, Anthony, is even what's going on with Starbucks right now with Brian Nickel, who they just hired. And if you talk to certain people, depending on what their perspective is on this, I think it's clear that Starbucks, needs some help from a business perspective. But to have a brand like that has gone through controversy, whether it's, where some of their investments are, whether it's what's going on with some of the anti-union controversy. This is a brand that hired a CEO who lives in another state. And at first, because Starbucks, again, came under fire for calling all their corporate employees back to the office when employees felt like, whoa, we've changed our whole lives. And then it was announced he's going to work remote. And to have a remote CEO at a company that just called all their employees back. So then they went, all right, he's going to commute by private jet to the office. Starbucks, I hate to call them out, but we're putting our brands out there. We're all open to scrutiny. Has a mission to be resource positive by 2030, and a big part of their brand and what they're talking about right now is sustainability and reducing their carbon footprint. So with a decision like that seems maybe so far away from their marketing, they're so connected.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. And that's why I think conversations like these are so critical for leaders to think about when they're making some of these decisions.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you is this concept of brand authenticity. We have so many great examples of how that shows up. There are equally amount of examples of where you're not positioning yourself in the most authentic way, and it can be, to your point, it can be sniffed out by both your customers as well as your employees. Right. Very, very easily, probably more easily than we as business leaders even can imagine. Right. Yeah. We say again that your brand is kind of like your DNA. Every organization, it's different, but we leave these fingerprints everywhere.
Yeah.
And that can be seen and felt. Yeah. So what are, maybe to kind of round the discussion out, what are some of the things that you're maybe most paying attention to when it comes to brand development and this idea of brand authenticity? Or what are some of the things that you're most excited about?
Yeah. So I feel like it's really interesting to see how work and the relationship that people have to work and our expectations for the workplace have made change in the workplace. And I think coming from the generation of being a millennial where we got told, we were entitled and bought too much avocado toast so we couldn't buy a house, or whatever the hell Business Insider magazine thought was a good idea, that I'm sure they're regretting. I think that when there is power in people saying we deserve better, gone are the days of somebody working somewhere that doesn't really appreciate them, doesn't give a damn about the experience, and they're going to retire and get the company watch. And I think because, employees have made smarter decisions, it's forced companies to evolve their employee experience. I think in that same way, the changing consumer behavior and expectation is now forcing companies to be more transparent in their operations. And I think that's a good thing, because we're seeing trends of, especially some of the younger generations, want companies to do good with their profits, to be sustainable. So I think in that way, we'll see some really strong driving of action there. So those are some of the things I'm excited to see. Beyond that, there are so many more. I think as we all see the stats of how many messages we're all exposed to a day. Yeah. And we're seeing marketing and brands 24/7. Our brains are taking that in. So the fight to stand out is something really exciting. So I'm super thrilled to see more brands emerge that shake up a category. And it happened in insurance. Insurance used to not be fun. And all of a sudden, funnest ads in the world. We saw it with Liquid Death. What a great, that's the most perfect marketing case study you have. They took a boring category. I mean, it's water, it's our life force, but boring as a product. And made it something that people said, it's been called in the marketing world a purple cow. It's so weird, you can't look away from it.
Yeah, right.
So I think seeing more brands emerge like that are doing something unique and cutting through the noise and just shaking shit up is so exciting to see. And I can't wait to get to witness and hopefully build more of that in my lifetime.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost, I feel like as if we're maybe kind of exiting this era, which was a very exciting one, where kind of everybody had a camera, everybody had a cell phone, everybody could be a part of a brand, if you will, right? It was almost this like for the people, by the people type of a deal. And what I'm realizing, or what I'm experiencing coming out of that, is that there's this premium that's become on really, really good, well thought out brand strategy.
Yes.
Where it's not just all TikTok and Instagram reels.
Yes.
Where the Super Bowl ad is still incredibly valuable. And a well thought out billboard can catch the attention of everybody who's got their eyes on the same old Instagram story. So it's almost like and we say that these things do kind of like go in cycles, but I'm most excited about some of the more traditional expression of marketing, or even some of the more traditional mediums, making a bit of a comeback in a world where we're all so glued to our phones.
Oh, it's so funny you say that, Anthony, too. And I hope you don't mind my shameless promotion, but this is so relevant to the conversation. But our agency, in talking about like reinvigorating some new energy, direct mail is something that has died out a little bit. So our agencies also don't market themselves often. Like, we kind of hold up the work.
Yeah.
Our agency did something unique this year. We created what we called the breakup kit. This is a small version. This is the mini. The big one I could not lift and hold like this. But we basically wanted to do something that cut through the noise, and that, the joy of opening mail. We get bills and we get junk mail and maybe wedding invites. But people don't really get exciting mail anymore. So what we did is we wanted to honor that traditional medium, but in such a new way to cut through the noise. So we basically send products that we are obsessed with, that we would be honored to work with, or even, just be in the same orbit of, a kit that basically says, if your current marketing agency is not treating you right, maybe it's time for a breakup. And we ask people to cry their way back to company productivity. And we send people cute things like hot cocoa and a blanket and a box of tissues and a got mail. And this is my favorite. This is a cassette tape that says, some easy thing to help forget your agency that never listens. So that was so joyful and fun. And it has been so successful to get people in marketing who do this work to go, this made me stop and go, holy shit, because it cuts through the noise. But to the point of authenticity, bringing it back, we now have to make sure we're living that promise, where we're saying, if you're going to break up with your agency because they never listen, God, we got to be listening to our clients. So it's been such a cool thing to be a part of developing here.
What an incredible example of authentic brand development. I have to ask, is there anything, like if someone actually had a cassette tape player at home, is there anything on that tape?
Oh, yes, it is. But they're surprises. They're Easter eggs. The VHS,
no way.
Those are Easter eggs because they're unlabeled. So they are real, but you have to get it and play it to know.
That is so cool, because we all had those tapes, right? And some of them were breakup tapes, like all the songs. For me, it was this would be a good question for anybody, but for me, it was Boys to Men was definitely on the back of my tape. I'm trying to think of who else would be. I mean, Vanilla Ice back in the day was definitely it. Yeah. Who was on the back of your tape?
This is a good question.
Yeah. Who would be on your cassette tape? Like, who was on your cassette tape, being in the millennial generation? Probably some of the same names.
So it's funny, because I was on a classic hit station, and I actually used to wonder if me being a host on a classic hit station, which was music that I didn't really grow up with in the way that our core audience did, I would say to the brand manager, is this inauthentic that I'm a host? And she said, God, no, it's your parents' music. It's actually, that's beautiful, because that music needs to stay relevant. So I grew up with a dad who plays every instrument and was obsessed with hair metal. I'm actually going to see Duran Duran, I think next month. So it would probably be Duran Duran or Foreigner.
Okay, cool. Man, some throwback names. Well, that breakup box is incredible. What an awesome idea, and I wish you
for
so
the
much luck with
promotion.
That. Yeah, no, that's just a perfect, an absolutely perfect example. Veronica, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your thoughts on brand authenticity and its many shapes and forms. I can just your spirit and your energy is palpable. And I know that it really sounds like you're doing some incredible work, and we just wish you the best of luck, and we're proud and excited to have you a part of the Navigating Now community.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anthony, for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to hear more about what you do as well.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
All right. And we want to just thank everybody who has joined today's episode 198. I can't believe 2 episodes away from the big 200. We go live every Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. Central. You can find this episode and all previous episodes at thoughttium.com/live. We hope you all have a